Welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as we tonight talk about Rangnick's January transfer clear-out and why he will have to remove some players from Manchester United in his tenure. We'll be talking about Pogba, Jesse, Donny, Henderson, a few others. Also want to talk about Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw. I think it was one of our ex-players saying that they've got a hell of a job to get their team place back. I don't know what you think about that. We'll certainly be talking about that as well. Nemanja Matic will be captain in the team tomorrow, which gives you a big hint about what's actually going to be the team tomorrow and who's definitely not going to be playing in that game, as well as interest from Serie A and a former Manchester United manager for Diego Delo. Will that happen? I don't think so. But lots to talk about. We'll also be taking your questions as well. And we will start off with... let me just start off very quickly with Matic being named the captain for tomorrow's game. That you can basically take that to the bank that Maguire's not playing. We already know De Gea's not playing. Bruno won't be playing. And Ronaldo won't play because they would be captains if they started. If, Bruno started, he'd be captain, Maguire, Ronaldo, De Gea. So if Matic is captain, you can pretty much say that those four people will not be starting tomorrow, which I think is good news, really, because we do want to see players given an opportunity, which feeds into what the title of the show is, which is Rangnick's January transfer clear-out. Well, it might not be January, but there will be a transfer clear-out. And the interesting thing is going to be, I think under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it was very obvious that last summer, Jesse comes knocking on the door. What you saying? I'm saying you can stay, Jesse. You can stay. I'm going to give you game time. And he doesn't. Eric Bailly walks in. What's happening? You can stay, Eric. I'm going to give you game time. Donny walks in. I've bulked up. I'm ready to go. Good one, Donny. You can stay. I'm going to play you. And they never really did get picked. Ollie didn't make the brave decisions last summer. We ended up with problems and an inflated squad, favourites and the same old, same old. However, if Ollie had stayed in charge, then we would have been in a situation whereby Manchester United would have been moving players on in January. And I can tell you this, pretty much set in stone, that if Ollie had stayed in job... Rangnick is wearing off of me already. If Ollie had stayed in the job, then Jesse was gone, Donny was gone, Pogba was gone, and Henderson was gone. Now, in what variant of gone, I don't know. But loan, permanent deal, January, those four players were resigned to the fact or decided that they were leaving under Ollie. Now, obviously, we've got Rangnick in. Now, everyone's not so sure whether they're leaving. But the fact remains that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had to move players on in January and at the end of the season because the squad was too big and he hadn't done it the previous summer. Maybe we were going to move for Kieran Trippier at right back. Delo probably would have gone as well. But that's the past. We don't need to talk about what Ollie would have done. But players needed to be moved on. So Rangnick inherits that issue. They are still heavily stacked with players and players still need to go. And what you need to do as a Manchester United fan is understand that there is no happy ever after for this squad. It's got too many players in it. And Rangnick isn't stupid. He knows that certain areas need more players in it of better quality, i.e. the midfield. But United cannot, and probably rightfully cannot, sanction the signing of more players without the removal of certain players, and therefore it leaves us in this situation as to who will go. And just to double down on that, Mark with us adding Chris Aramas to the staff, do you think we will add more American talent like Pulisic, Tyler Adams or Gio Reyna? Thoughts? Good point, Chris. I really wanted us to get Pulisic. I know he's got injury problems, but I would love us to bring some of the American players in. I think America is massive in relation to football and Manchester United support, and I know a lot of Americans who support Manchester United would love us to have an American player as well. It's like when we had Chicharito and the Mexican Man United fans loved it. So it would be nice to do that, but I don't know what that would lead to. But I tell you what, a lot of people talking about the Leipzig player Hadara. I'm sure a lot of people will be looking at him as well. But to be honest with you, 3 weeks ago, nobody was really thinking about him, were they? But look, going back to my point, this is why United need to remove some players from the squad. And it's going to be interesting to see what you think will happen and who it is removed. Because one thing I would say with certainty is, right here, right now, Rangnick doesn't know. He doesn't know who he's going to clear out. All we know is that people have to go. When you look at the attacking positions, and I still will leave people out, but we have got in the front two positions, or whatever you want, or the striker position, whatever you want to call it, you've got Ronaldo, Rashford, Cavani, Martial, Elanga, Greenwood. You've got 6. In the positions behind the striker, the number 10 positions, whatever you want to call them, you've got Ahmad, Bruno, Sancho, Donny, Pogba, Jesse, another 6. That's just too many. We've got 12 options in the attacking positions, whether it's attacking midfield, wide, or up front. We've got 12 players. We probably could do with about 8 or 9. It's just too many. We're too stacked. Now you look at Liverpool, one of the best teams in the world. How many players have they got in the front 3 positions? They've got Firmino, Jota, Salah, Mane. They've got 4 good options, and then they've got people like Origi. They've not got 8. We've got 12. 12 options in those front positions. We need to shed at least 3 of them. And the interesting thing is, who's it going to be? Because I could say to you, Martial, Jesse, Pogba, they're gone. Maybe Donny as well. That's 4. But on the other hand, you might really like Jesse. Martial might have a renaissance. Pogba might sign the contract. In which case, you might be thinking, Donny. But you see what I mean? Ronaldo's. The more important thing is who's not going to go. Well, Ronaldo's not going to go. Rashford's not going to go. Bruno's not going to go. Sancho's not going to go. Greenwood's not going to go. That's 5. Ahmad and Elanga are young, so maybe they go on loan, but that's still 5. But you're still left with, Cavani will go. We know that will happen. I think we've got to move some players on. There won't be enough time, and it's going to be very interesting. What I'm interested to see is how Rangnick handles this, and how do you think Rangnick will handle this? Because, as I said, he's not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think if Rangnick was in year 3 in the summer, and he'd managed the team the same way Ole had managed it, obviously different football, and Jesse Lingard comes knocking on the door after a loan move to West Ham, and he hasn't used him for the previous 2 years, do you think Rangnick would say, yes, stay, I'm going to give you game time? He would have got rid of him. So I think this is going to be really interesting because big decisions are going to have to be made. But that doesn't mean that Jesse won't be part of Rangnick's plans. If he is, it probably means Donny's going to have to go and Pogba's going to have to go. And big decisions will have to be made. The only thing that scares me the most, I'll tell you what scares me the most, is that bounce. It's the bounce players. We know, unfortunately, and I hope Rangnick knows, we know there are, I almost want to whisper it, but Rangnick needs to hear it. We know we've got players in our squad who can go and play really well for 10 games. And if they did, Rangnick might make a bad choice because those players who can play well for 10 games can then play shit for 6 months and then play well for 10 games again. We have a problem with consistency. And what we might see over the next 2 or 3 months is some of these players that some of us might think aren't actually going to be good enough might have a really good 2 or 3 months because it's bounce, enthusiasm. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But look, we do have to move players on. We do, and it's interesting because I was reading today. I mean, I don't know whether Samuel Luckhurst at Manchester Evening News is a long lost relative of Dean Henderson because he never shuts up about him. And he obviously really likes him. Well done. But he was on about Ajax looking to take him on loan, and Dean Henderson apparently long term wants to be Manchester United's goalkeeper, but isn't going to wait around to be second place again. So was looking to go on a loan. And I've got no problem with anybody wanting Dean Henderson to be our number 1, by the way. We've been down this road before. I think you're foolish. I think David De Gea has been... I mean, he's just won Player of the Month again, hasn't he? But he has quite clearly been one of the best goalkeepers in Europe this season. But Dean Henderson to Ajax was mentioned. A bid of £50 million from Chelsea a couple of years ago was mentioned. Well, Man United should have took that money. Again, who was in charge 2 years ago? Who was indecisive on a really good fee? I had somebody say to me that, Henderson should be number 1 because Chelsea wanted to pay us 50 million for him. And I said, but I'm happy with our number 1. We should have sold Henderson for 50 million and used it to buy a midfielder. That annoys me even more because Dean Henderson is a good goalkeeper. So you're telling me we had somebody offering us 50 million for Henderson 2 years ago, but we decided to keep that 50 million on the bench for 2 years. We should have let him go. That's what we should have done. So yeah, there are some big decisions that need to be made, and I'm interested. All I would say at the moment is we don't know what those decisions will be. Rangnick might have an idea, but early, he's going to have to give everybody a chance, and that's why tomorrow night's game is really interesting. Dean's got to learn so much, says BK. He does need game time, though. Alric says, I can see Cavani, Lingard, Pogba, Mata, Matic, Hendo, Bay are likeliest to leave, says Alric. Are you streaming on Twitch today, says Lee? I am. If you're interested, I will be doing like a Champions League watch along on Twitch. I've dropped the link in the video description whilst playing my FIFA career mode, which is what I normally do on an afternoon, but I had some things on this afternoon, so I'm going to do an extended stream, and it's quite an interesting one because I've got Goldbridge up front. I'm in the Championship. It is United Stand FC Thunderdome, if you know what I'm on about. We've got 5 games left and we're in the playoff position, so tonight could be a very exciting night. Could be promotion, could be failure, but that'll be straight after this one. I've dropped the link in the video description for you. Saldine and Lingard, it's an easy 50 million, says Imchin, and nobody expected De Gea would play good again. I did, Alexi. What do you mean? He's like 30 years of age and he's one of the world's best goalkeepers over the last 10 years. I expected him to come back. But if Donny plays well and Rangnick likes him, who will be the casualty of that? I think Rangnick could give some surprises in terms of players he keeps, as Salah Ahmed. Tomorrow night, Matic is definitely playing because he's the captain. We know that Donny's playing. I think tomorrow night for me, and I'm not going to start going, oh, if it doesn't happen, I'm going to lose my shit. Because you know what? I don't want to carry anything from the Ollie era into the Rangnick era. If you're resetting, you've got to reset your mind. Lots of fans aren't, and I want to talk about this Wan-Bissaka Luke Shaw in a minute because it's just agenda. It's agenda driven from people who don't understand what a reset is. They don't have to reset. Nobody's telling you have to, but I want to, and I am. So when I look at the game tomorrow, if Matic is playing holding midfielder and he starts McTominay and Donny's playing next to Lingard in the 2-10 positions where Sancho and Bruno were, I know that Rangnick sees Donny as competition for Bruno and Sancho. I think that's the end of Donny because I just don't think he'll be able to dislodge those sort of players from the team. If he plays Donny next to Matic, I'll be excited because I think that is an area, regardless of how well Fred and McTominay was okay against Palace as well, regardless how well they played against Palace, there's no backup and you need competition. We've got competition at centre-back, up front, in the number 10 positions, in goal. We've got competition absolutely everywhere. And we need competition in the McTominay-Fred role. I don't think Matic is sufficient. So if Donny plays tomorrow, I'll be really excited if he plays in the Fred-McTominay role because that's where I think he could force his way into the team. If he doesn't play there, then, you know, I think we'll be playing McTominay and Fred a hell of a lot. In fact, they'll probably be the 2 players in the team that are never going to really get dropped until we buy somebody. But no offence, Mark, but David De Gea isn't even Spain's number 1, says Nate. It's not. I don't take any offence. I'm not Spanish. I like a good paella. Por favor con limon, dos pintos. But you know, Jadon Sancho doesn't start for England. I couldn't give a shit about inept national coaches. Fletcher will be whispering their bad plans in the manager's ear, and their ex-players will try to convince Rangnick that Scott is an amazing player, says Red Baron. In relation to Donny tomorrow, if he plays in that midfield, I think it really does give him an opportunity to maybe force his way into the team. But it's not going to happen overnight for anybody. And I want to talk about these two. I want to talk about Delo, and then we'll talk about Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw. If Wan-Bissaka plays well for Manchester United tomorrow night, he won't play against Norwich. If Luke Shaw plays well tomorrow night, he won't play against Norwich. If Donny plays well, he won't play against Norwich. Rangnick will pick the team that beat Crystal Palace against Norwich for 2 reasons. One, because they beat Crystal Palace, and I think he's the sort of manager that doesn't change a winning team. And 2, the first team is going to have a week where they are going to train really well on Thursday because they're not going to play on Wednesday night, but the team that plays on Wednesday night will miss the Thursday training session. So Rangnick will be doing a lot of work for the Norwich game on Thursday, where everybody who plays on Wednesday won't be playing. So I don't think we're going to see changes to that Norwich team, and I expect us to beat Norwich. So as I said before, I've got no. This is a reset. Rangnick's in charge. I'm not going to criticise his team selections, but I would imagine the team that plays against Norwich will be the team that played against Crystal Palace, regardless of what the result is tomorrow night. I don't think anybody can force their way into the team for that. And then Brighton, if we beat Norwich, he'll probably keep the same team for Brighton, for Brentford and then Brighton. So fortunate. I think if we'd brought Rangnick in ahead of the Arsenal game, there might have been more chance for a Donny or somebody else to come into the team. But I think that the players that are in there now, they've grabbed that opportunity, And they're going to be hard to shake at the moment because I think we should be going on a good run. Squad leader, welcome to the members club. Mr. Goldbridge, just trying to understand the rules. Why did Odegaard on Fred go to VAR but not Maguire and Tamiyasu? Love the channel from Germany, says Atire. Just deal with it. Arsenal are crap and United are above them. Get used to it. There's no point challenging it. VAR ain't going to help you. In the world of Man United against Arsenal, Man United are above Arsenal, and that will continue to be the case. Just enjoy your progression from 8th to maybe 5th this year, and enjoy that journey. But for now, I wouldn't even be looking at VAR decisions from last Thursday. You've lost 2 games, we've won 2. You're behind us. Swivel on it. I'm all for stripping Maguire of his captaincy and making Matic permanent captain, says the T-Dep. Yeah, well, Matic ain't going to get into the team anytime soon, is he? But Delo is an interesting one. Delo is a very interesting one because it's interesting because I saw a story. Oh, why is that on the screen? Get that off. I saw a story today about Diego Delo and Jose Mourinho wanting him at Roma. And I thought it was a well-timed story because it was coming from Italy. And I was like, you know what? That would be a very interesting story if Delo hadn't had the week he's just had. If this story a week ago had come out about Delo and Roma, we'd probably be sat here going, that's not a bad deal. Mourinho bought him in the first place to bring him to Manchester United for 20 million. We can probably get most of our money back. It's a good move for Delo, who did well at AC Milan last year. It's a good move for Mourinho because he likes Delo, and we can get a better right back to challenge Wan-Bissaka. But it's funny how a week changes everything, isn't it? Because right here, right now, Delo is becoming the player that, to be fair, I'm not going to claim anything on this. You can have this. The United Stand community can have this because the United Stand community, which is you, does have a voice. I'd never say it's a 100% voice because you do disagree with each other, but I do pick up on themes. I pick up on things and, signings over the years. You have mentioned players that you would like, and Delo is certainly a player that has been mentioned a lot by you in the chat over the last couple of years, even when he was at AC Milan, that you'd love to see him given a chance and you think there's a good player in there. And, I wouldn't be as passionate about it as you, but I certainly didn't want us to get Trippier last year. I wanted Delo to be given a chance. And, when he played against Villarreal the other week and he got absolutely battered, people were like, get rid of him, he's crap. And I was like, well, this is the problem with football in general. Player doesn't get chances, gets given a chance, rusty, puts a bad performance in, get rid of him. And yet, and I like Wan-Bissaka, by the way, but Wan-Bissaka's played nearly every game for 2 years. He's had bad games, he's had good games. Delo gets 1 game in about 20, has a bad game, get rid of him. And yet the player he's replacing has had bad games but keeps playing and has good games. And I think with these players that are coming in, they need an opportunity to play. And what's happened with Delo is, he's got a couple of games because of Wan-Bissaka injury, and he's took it. But he's still really rusty. He could have scored at the weekend. It would have been a great goal. Maybe 5 games in a row, he would have buried that. And that's the great thing about Delo and Telles at the moment, is they've not been given opportunities. And now that they've got them, they're still very rusty. I think defensively, they both worry me defensively, but going forward, they're very good. And I think it's fantastic what they're doing. But it is an indication of that story a week ago would have been, yeah, maybe we should cash in. A week later, people are like, well, no, Delo's competing with Wan-Bissaka. We don't want a right back, and we don't want to sell Delo. And I think that's a really big thing because Ethan Laird's doing a very good job at Swansea. Now, I don't know how far away he is from being a player that we bring back to Manchester United. And maybe we don't bring him back to Manchester United. Maybe we sell him. But, you've got Wan-Bissaka and Delo fighting it out for right back. We've always known with Wan-Bissaka, whatever you think about him, he does need and has needed. He's needed cover for 2 things. 1, because we were overplaying him. Well, Ollie was overplaying him. And 2, because, there are elements of his game that need to improve. And that will improve with a bit of competition. So I think Delo will play against Norwich and deserves that run in the team, as does Telles. Telles deserves the chance as well. I mean, he was the unsung hero of the Palace game. I knew he'd had a good game, but I didn't realise he was top of the charts for touches, passing, interceptions. He was very, very good and very energetic. And again, I think Delo and Telles have just sort of taken their chance. They should have been given more. Ollie should have rotated those positions more than he did, but we know he was very much about favourites. And I think with Rangnick, it's he must be really, really excited that Luke Shaw's had a concussion, Aaron Wan-Bissaka has been injured, And if they hadn't had a concussion and they hadn't had an injury, they would have played against Arsenal. And if we'd beaten Arsenal, Rangnick would have picked them against Crystal Palace. So, I saw this article today. Would you say Liverpool's fullbacks are amazing defensively? Red Baron, I think Robertson's good defensively. I don't think Trent is. I think you raise a good point. But you know what? I saw this article today, and it was Rio Ferdinand saying that Luke Shaw and Aaron Wan-Bissaka have got their work cut out to get the fullback positions back. And so what? They should embrace that. They've been our first choice right backs for the last couple of years. They've lost their places because of injury, and two people coming in and doing their job well. That's a good thing. That's a positive thing. But unfortunately, we know what football works like. You will get people, maybe some of you, going, good, I don't want them in the team anyway, they're shit. I want Delo and Telles to stay. And this is where football has become very toxic. And it makes me laugh because the channel, and social media fans in general get it thrown at them every day that they're toxic and dividers. But it's not toxic and it's not division, it's opinion on footballing ability. I would never say get Delo out the team because I want Wan-Bissaka in, Delo's a load of shit. Like, they're Manchester United players, and in the spirit of a reset, Telles and Delo are in possession of the shirts because they're playing really well. Luke Shaw shouldn't walk back into the team. Wan-Bissaka shouldn't walk back into the team. They've got to earn it. But they are Manchester United players, and they are part of something that's really important, and it's called competition for places. And I don't really care who plays at left back, and I don't really care who plays at right back. I have my preference, but at the moment I wouldn't drop Telles and I wouldn't drop Delo because that sends the wrong message. We don't want to be favourites FC. We want to pick the players who deserve the spot. And that is why we're in a really good position in the fullbacks at the moment. And that is why we need that in the McFred position and in other positions where we've got real, genuine quality and rotation. But, as I said, the interesting thing is, in response to that line that apparently Rio Ferdinand said about Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka are going to find it really difficult to win their positions back, I don't think they are. Luke Shaw might still be a better left-back than Telles. Wan-Bissaka might still be a better right-back than Delo. They won their places not because of form, they won them because of injury. They inherited the positions because of injury, and they've taken their chance. And Telles might pick up an injury and Luke Shaw might get the space. But this is how it should work. The problem is, under Manchester United's reign of the last 3 years, we've been able to pick the team because we've had this illogical approach to having a favourite 11. Eric Bailly is a prime example of this. I've seen Eric Bailly over the last 3 years play 3 amazing games, 2 of them against Chelsea, like man of the match performances, and be dropped the very next game for Lindelof or Maguire. That isn't right. That mentality is probably why we haven't won trophies. Because people will say, why did we get to so many semi-finals? Why did we lose the final? Weak mentality in the football club. And weak mentality can be built upon many, many structures. But I think under United, it was built upon a weak mentality of, I'll get picked no matter what. There's no consequence for bad performance. If I lose this final, will I get sold? No, I'll still be the captain. No, I'll still be the striker. I'll still be the number 10. And that fed into this mentality over the last 3 years where a player like Eric Bailly can put a man of the match performance in away at Stamford Bridge and then get dropped the very next game because the player who was suspended comes back. That's not how it should work. So I'm a big fan of Luke Shaw and I'm a big fan of Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but they should not play against Norwich, even if they play really well tomorrow night, because tomorrow night's not... it's a good game and it's a Champions League game, but the Premier League's the priority at the moment. We've just beat Palace with 2 good fullbacks. They're in possession of the shirt. That's what should happen. And this is why Rangnick bringing in sports psychologists that we didn't have is really important, because the psychology of Manchester United over the last 3 years has been weak. It's been favouritism. It's like, I'm all right. They all train and I don't know why people have a problem with Luke Shaw. I think Luke Shaw speaks some of the most honest opinion about what goes on at United. Just a few things about Luke Shaw. When the Super League happened, he was leading vocally against it and was very unhappy. A few weeks ago, he was saying, I can't understand why Donny van de Beek doesn't play. He's brilliant in training. So, people get on Luke Shaw's back. But actually, he might not be your cup of tea as a left-back. He is for me. But he actually speaks a lot of sense, and he does speak out on things and has spoken out on things that actually are in tune with a lot of what you are. So, I wouldn't start having an agenda against players when we're having a new start. And I think players are mature enough to understand that, you know, you might lose your place because you're injured and someone else comes and does your job better than you were doing it. That's the way it should be. We want to eliminate this favouritism FC. And this is why having a sports psychologist for the first time is going to be really important, because these are the conversations players need to have and understand. So that if I am Aaron Wan-Bissaka and I go and speak to the sports psychologist and I say, look, I've been the number one right back for 2 years, I get injured, Delo gets my place, and now I'm out of the team. I'm struggling with it. And then the sports psychologist says, but at the end of the day, you're all part of the same team. You've all got the same goal. It's your teammate. He might get injured, and then it's your opportunity. You know, this is how football works. It's about opportunity, and it's about grabbing them. And, you know, work hard. You know, we need this. We need to improve the psychology in that club. And I think Rangnick will definitely do it, because why did we lose so many semi-finals? Why did we lose a really dull Europa League final against Villarreal? Why did we lose it? Because when the going gets tough, the players just don't seem to get it, and I think it's going to be really interesting. And I don't think Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw are going to find it difficult to get back in the team, because I think there will be rotation under Rangnick, because I think the system's going to be very demanding, and I think there will be injuries. And what I want to do is I want to get to a point where we're playing such intense, proactive football that, you know, Telles plays against Norwich, and in the last 10 minutes he feels a knock and he's like, I can't play against Brentford on Tuesday. And Rangnick goes, right, Luke Shaw, you're coming in, this is your chance. Luke Shaw plays really, really well. And then Rangnick's got a decision to make for Brighton and thinks, right, I might play one of them. You know, and that's what you want. Competition for places is, you know, competition is so close to competence. And what we need is competence in each position times 2. You know, 2 good left backs, 2 good right backs, 4 good centre backs, 4 good number 6s, 4 good 10s. 2 good strikers, maybe 3, you know, 4 actually, because if we're playing a 4-2-2, 2 really good goalkeepers. That's what we need to get to, and everyone needs to be in tune, and we can't have this favouritism, and you know, even if you play well, you're getting dropped from a mate. Mark, the biggest point that I got from the presser was that Ollie was playing players through injury with no concern for long-term health, says Sakin. And I agree, Mark, but don't you think Wan-Bissaka isn't good enough to play in a Rangnick team? I love Wan-Bissaka, but he has very limited technical ability, says Kashina. But that's just a subjective opinion that some people will agree with you on. I disagree with you on it. I can see why you think that, but you're casting aspersions on something you haven't seen. Well, Wan-Bissaka's not good enough to play in a Rangnick team, but last week everyone was saying McTominay's finished in a Rangnick team, and yet he's not. So all I would say is, please, and I can't dictate and I can't tell people what to do. My voice is not your voice is your voice. But how can you decide that Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw are finished when they've not played 1 minute for a new manager? And that to me is agenda, and this is what some people are bringing across from before. I don't like this player. I mean, some people don't like Ronaldo. I mean, we've got some right prats in our fan base, but in the main, I would be... I can't tell you what to think, but I don't understand why you wouldn't be excited and enthused and enthralled by what's going to happen. And, you know, we've got a manager now that is speaking the most sense and depth and intelligence we've had in a long, long time. And, you know, I just have no prejudice or agenda against any player. You know, deep down, I have my concerns about some players, but I suppress it in the spirit of giving them an opportunity. Competition is very healthy and it's what's needed, says Matty Ross. And I think that's absolutely spot on. Please smash a like on the video, by the way. It's absolutely spot on. And maybe some of us have forgotten what it means to win, what it takes to win. It's no coincidence that Chelsea are the Champions League holders and Manchester City are the Premier League holders, and their squads are 2 of the best in the world. I think in our fan base, we've become afflicted and infected by Player FC, Pogba FC, Bruno FC, Martial FC, Ronaldo FC. You know, there's too much of that, and it's like, I'm Pogba FC, so I don't want Bruno in the team, and I don't want Donny to do well. I'm Ronaldo FC, so I don't want Cavani back fit. And actually, we're Manchester United FC. That's what we are. You will never win a title off having favourite players playing all the time. We have to be like a Chelsea and a Man City, where one game, oh, he's not playing Sterling, he's playing Mahrez. Oh, he's not playing De Bruyne, he's putting Bernardo Silva in with Foden. That's what we need to get to, where we are a fan of the club and the players that play for it, but we're not so focused on individuals that, no, I want him playing and not that crap one. We've got 2 left backs, they both play for Manchester United, we support them both. We've got 2 right backs. But we don't want it to be like the Ollie era where we've got 2 left backs. We can't support them both because he's totally obsessed with running one of them into the ground and not giving the other a chance. And I think under Rangnick, it's going to be easier to be a Manchester United fan and not individual player fans because you will see that rotation. It might take a little getting used to. People forget there's only been a handful of training sessions. The team against Palace isn't final, so there's room for others to come in and flourish under Rangnick's system after weeks of training. 100% Clicker. And that goes hand in hand with what we've just been talking about. You know, January, we've got an inflated squad. Ollie was going to lose 3 or 4 of these players anyway. Who the 3 or 4 players will be under Rangnick is going to be very interesting if we are resetting and everyone gets a chance. Did you hear Rangnick talk about Varane's injury concern? They don't want to rush him back, unlike Ollie's treatment of Maguire and Rashi, says Punnett. Well, you know what, Punnett? I think that somebody just said it a moment ago that, you know, Rangnick's basically hinted that players have been rushed back in the past. I think that... Do you punch the ball when you see McFred in the team? No. No. Again, it's just, you know, Eamon, you know what this is? This is just people who just want to run an agenda and cause division. Like, Fred played well at the weekend and I was getting tagged in stuff like Goldbridge must be fuming. Did you watch the watch along? Was I fuming? No. I've been talking about a reset, a new United for weeks. I'll be a hypocrite if I'm like, oh, fuck off, Fred. You're useless. As I said, 2 years ago, I was putting Fred number 1 in my chart show. I'll say a player's a load of shit if they're playing a load of shit. And if they're playing well, I will say they're playing well. Agenda is they're playing shit when they're shit. They're still shit when they're playing well. I don't do that. I've only ever done it for one player probably, and that was Fellaini. But I don't do that. And I thought Fred scoring the first goal on Sunday was fantastic, and I really hope that he can. He is a player that we want to play well. He's got some limitations, but if anyone can get the best out of him, then Rangnick can. And what was that one there? Just let Pogba go. Let's move on from him. We can get better midfielders in Europe, says Vinay. And Mark, would you agree that Pogba is becoming injury prone and it's likely to become worse as he gets older, says Joshua Bowwater. You make a good point as well, Joshua. I need to go back to that other previous point, but you make a good point, Joshua, because actually, when you look at Pogba over the last 4 years, I guarantee he's probably missed 2 months of every season. That's a lot. That is a lot. When you're losing a player for 25% of the season every season through an injury, then that is a problem. But I've never looked at it like that. And as I say, it's not my decision whether Pogba goes, it's his. Manchester United have got an offer on the contract for 400 grand a week for a player that is injury prone, has been a bit inconsistent, but United are willing to offer that money up. Interestingly about Paul Pogba, in 2017, Rangnick was talking about Pogba and said he wouldn't swap Pogba for Naby Keita, who was at Leipzig at the time, because Pogba wouldn't fit into his system. Now, look, that doesn't mean that Rangnick doesn't like Pogba. That was 4 years ago. But Naby Keita at Leipzig was tearing it up in a team that was a Rangnick team that plays very similar to the way United played in the first half an hour against Crystal Palace. Now, Pogba's pressing stats are actually very, very good. Will Rangnick fancy Pogba as a player for him? Did he say that because it was a player he couldn't get and he was just bigging up Naby Keita? Who knows? But, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Pogba, but we'll have to wait a month for that anyway. I understand the difference in opinion, but now is the time to get behind our manager, our team, and take it game by game, says Matty. Yeah, and going back to what I was going to talk about, when you look at some of the things that Rangnick has said in the very short time he's been here, I think he's been interviewed twice now, probably 3 times actually when you can't take into account the post-match interview after Crystal Palace. He's not a vindictive man, and he's not got points to score. I think Mourinho said stuff about Van Gaal quite regularly when you read between the lines. He's not that sort of a manager. But he has let it be known that there has been problems at this club that were unacceptable. He said a few times and a few things. One of them was today about, not having a clean sheet at your own ground for 6 months is not good enough. But as somebody mentioned there about the injuries, Rangnick did basically hint at the fact that players have been rushed back too soon in the past. And that is a direct look at not only Solskjaer, but Carrick and Phelan and McKenna and the fitness department, which I would be interested to see what Rangnick does about the fitness department, because they have responsibilities as well. But we don't need Rangnick to tell us that there's been mistakes made. Like, we were literally talking about Varane last night and said, Don't rush him back for Norwich. We don't want him rushed back again. You know, we need him for the rest of the season, which is exactly what Rangnick has said. Now, Scott McTominay had a groin injury in August, was meant to be back at the end of September, played 3 games for United in 8 days in the last week of September, rushed back and didn't play well. Harry Maguire trained for the first time on a Friday morning, started against Leicester, rushed back, cost us the game. That's this season. Last season we saw it with Rashford continually. Players played when they were injured. Players rushed back. This is not breaking news. This is not Rangnick unveiling some sort of sinister, expose. This is something that we've discussed quite regularly for the last couple of years. United did have this tendency under the previous regime to rush back people when they weren't fit or play them when they weren't fit. Why did they do that? Because there were these favourite players that the previous regime were obsessed with playing. But also, it's not just rushing people back from injury. It's not just playing people when they're injured who are favourites. We also continually played people into the ground. Luke Shaw, Bruno Fernandes, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, they're 3 players that didn't pick up injuries but ended up absolutely exhausted by the end of the season. I mean, Bruno was just run into the ground. He hardly had any energy left. This is something that Rangnick will definitely be taken into account as the professionalism in the club goes up a level. It is reassuring now that if a player is not picked for a game, then he will at least be training the Ralph style, says Maz. As long as we win and play well, I don't care. I just feel Delo is better player, but that's just my opinion. Hope Bissaka gets better with competition, says Kashina. And Mark has said recently Real Madrid don't want Pogba for that reason. PSG may want him, but I could see him and Riola being disappointed. Says Brad. Look, at some point, Pogba might just decide my future's at Manchester United and sign the contracts on the table. I think that's the most important thing. I don't actually know what I want to happen with Paul Pogba. I like him. I think he's a good player. I don't think we've got the best out of him. He's been here 6 years. I do and have said in the past that it's not a bad thing if we part ways. I think it might be good for both clubs. But the reality is, it's not our decision. Those people who say just get rid of him, he's injury prone or he's not good enough. Well, I don't want him here. Your club does. United have got a contract on the table. To me, that's the interesting thing. Should United be withdrawing that contract? Or actually, is it about the fact that the contract's there because they don't want a player they spent £89 million on walking out the door for nothing for the second time? It's a mess that United have got themselves into. And as we've known for a long time, the power is with Riola and the power is with Pogba. So that's just where it is. Do you think we can pull off a swap deal in January under Ralph? Maybe a deal with a player like Pogba, even though it will be difficult, says Akil. I don't see that. Somebody just said, what's your thoughts on Roberto Mancini on the Manchester United job? I've not seen anything recent about it. I do know that we were linked with him maybe a week ago, and my answer to that was that I think that the reality is we've got what I think it's always a good thing when you get linked to managers that aren't Pochettino and Ten Hag, because I think Manchester United, not that I don't have a problem with either of those two coaches, but I think we need to keep our options open. And I don't know what I'd think about Mancini, to be honest with you. I don't think it would happen, but I do quite like the idea that we keep our options open, which is something we definitely didn't do under Ollie, did we? So I would like to see us keep our options open, basically. Hi Mark, what I am worried about is Rangnick does all this hard work, then a new manager comes in and undoes it all, says the Honest Tiger. Yeah, I mean, very logical points. My opinion on that is that we need to work hard to make sure that doesn't happen, but only an idiot club would allow that to happen, because surely if you bring Rangnick in to play this style of football and change the mentality and everything like that, then surely you don't bring Rangnick, you don't have Ollie who played Ollie ball to bring Rangnick in who plays Rangnick ball to bring in, I don't know, a manager that plays completely different. You don't do that. So the next manager has to, for one, if it's not going to be Rangnick long term, it's got to be someone Rangnick agrees with. coming in as the Manchester United manager next. That's what it has to be. He has to have some involvement in it. And the next manager... So basically, as a hypothetical, what you need is, you need Rangnick's next coach to be someone that Rangnick wants, that the next coach wants to work with Rangnick on. And Ten Hag is the obvious one because he's younger. I mean, the Nagelsmann would be ideal, but he's at Bayern Munich. But that's the sort of thing that needs to happen at Manchester United for the next one. But there you go. Look, we can continue all this chat. I'm actually going to move over onto Twitch. I've dropped the link in the video description for you. I'll literally be about 10 seconds and then I will actually be live on Twitch. So the link's in the video description. We're going to be playing a bit of FIFA on my career mode where I'm going to go for promotion. Now, Goldbridge plays up front. It's United Stand FC. We're in the Championship and we're trying to get promoted where we could be playing Man United next season. We've got our own ground, our own kit. So if you fancy carrying on the chat and a bit of interactive stuff for the next couple of hours, make sure you join me. I will be tweeting it out, but I have dropped the link in the video description. I'd like him to stay for the extra year if true to really set up a good standard, and says Barker. Look, my ideal thing, and it's totally fantasy, I would like to see Rangnick stay for another year if it meant Nagelsmann coming in 18 months. I would like that to happen. But it's time for the Thunderdome, says Nazia. Okay, I'm going to go straight over there. I will see you there in a minute. Links in the video chat. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like, subscribe. Join me on Twitch, Goldbridge TV. I'll see you in a minute.